Hi everyone, welcome to Owen's Treats. Today we will be making dinner rolls or yeast rolls, some people call them, for Thanksgiving. So what you will need is that you'll need 4 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon and a half of salt, 2 eggs at room temperature, a half a cup of warm water, make sure it's warm, a 1/4 cup of melted butter, a 1/4 cup of sugar, 1 cup of milk that's been slightly warmed. So this should be to finger touch, so it shouldn't be too hot and it shouldn't be too cold. So it should just be about body temperature. So let's get started. What we have here is our water, our sugar, our butter, and our milk. So what we're going to do is that we're going to add the milk in. Then we got our butter, it's all melted, our warm water, our sugar, the active dry yeast. This is what's going to make these rolls yeast rolls, and this is what's going to make them all glutinous. Give it a nice mix. Then we have our packet of yeast, which is quite easy to tear open. Sprinkle it on top of the mixture that we just made. Just want to evenly disperse it atop the top layer. Got any little bits that are on the bottom there. Then we're going to take our tiny whisk and we're going to gently stir this until all the little yeast particles are hydrated or have been dunked into the solution. So what you kind of want to do is you want to pick up your whisk, kind of drag the mixture over the top. Might do a small little whisk. Just try not to beat it too hard because that might damage the yeast. Now that we have our yeast mixture all set up here, we're going to let this go for 5 to 10 minutes in a warm spot, or if you're in your home, just let it rest for a little bit. And this will bloom, which is the start of the yeast acting up, which will give us the gluten later on. Hello, we're back. Our yeast has fully bloomed, so what we're going to do is move on to our next step. So we have our 4 cups of flour. We're going to add this to the largest bowl that you have in the kitchen. Salt from earlier. I'm just going to lightly mix it in, just so it's all fully incorporated. Then we're going to take one of our eggs that we have over here, and we're going to beat it with a fork just for a minute. Now that we finished with our egg, we're going to add our bloomed yeast mixture, and we're going to kind of plop it into the bowl. A little front and center for you guys. Pop that in. Then we're going to take a spatula. You're probably going to need 2 for this because this will get a little messy. And you're going to kind of fold it around, and then you're going to bring it down. Now after you see this is kind of a little shaggy, so not well put together dough, that's when you're going to decide to add an egg. The beat egg that we are going to keep mixing until a rough dough is formed. Clear off your spatula with your finger. I'm going to set this aside, set everything aside. Have a clear, clean workspace. I cleaned this off earlier, and it's all good now. Then what we're also going to need is some bunch flour. I just like to have the whole thing, just in case I may need a little bit more or a little less. Now for this dough, it should be more on the wet side, which is a good thing. You'd rather have a wet dough than dry dough. Open up the flour, set this off to the side, take a pinch of it, and spread it across the workspace. And it's kind of like the pretzels that we did. Except this time, we're going to make big dough. Now prepare to get your hands dirty and make sure you have a sink nearby or a paper towel. Then we're going to plop our dough onto the table. Look how amazing it is. Doesn't look good right now, but it will be good, trust me. Now we're kind of put together in a ball, and we're going to start kneading. Kind of like with the pretzel dough, you want to push down, you want to fold around like this. Now this dough is a little wet, so we might want to add some more flour. So just, as so, take some flour from your bag and kind of sprinkle it on. Now if you added too less of flour, too more flour, that's going to be alright. And this stuff that we have in our hands, we're going to rub off right now. And we're going to knead this back into the dough before it gets more put together. So with kneading, you want to knead for a long time, at least 15 to 20 minutes at least. Because this gets the gluten inside the dough all nice and glutinous, I guess you could say. So you turn around, you push down, and keep doing that motion over and over again. Now you see here as it sticks to my hand, this is a good indication that you want to add more bench flour. Just a tiny bit. Now if you want, because this motion does get tiring after a while, once you have it to like this stage about, you can do the heart method where you put it side to side with your forearms. You kind of roll it with your hand to your forearm. Keep rolling it. Now this method is pretty fun and it's kind of efficient. And what you want to see is that the dough becomes more put together and it has more of a glossy sheen when you run out of flour and it looks more like dough. The way to present your dough and to test it if it's ready or not, you want to kind of twist with your bottom with your hands. Kind of want to make a twisting motion along the bottom, and this puts all the scraggly bits underneath, and it has nice bits on top. So this is kind of the way that you test it. You put your finger and you poke it, and if it bounces back, then you're good. This bounced back, so it's all good. A little bit of flour just so it doesn't stick to the surface when we pick it up. We have some extra virgin olive oil, and we're just going to take about probably a tablespoon, and we're going to coat the inside with the olive oil. I like to use the back of my hand, and I just like to spread it around the entire bowl. Now that we have our bowl coated in olive oil, we're going to put our dough inside it. I'm put into a nice ball. As you can see, it looks really good. Now plop it inside. Now that our dough is inside, we're going to cover this with plastic wrap. Then we're going to let this sit for an entire hour to let it rise because the rising process lets the gluten incorporate better and it makes it better tasting and better everything, honestly. We had our dough rise for an hour. We have it here with the plastic wrap on. I'm going to take the plastic wrap off. I'm going to throw this away. And then we have the dough. It should have more than half risen. And this is the fun part that I always like. You can always punch the dough, and it releases a whole bunch of air, and it's really fun. We're going to take the dough outside the container, and we're going to knead it just for a little bit. After we have it kneaded for a little bit, we're going to do the same thing that we did earlier, where we twist the bottom of it so it has a nice looking ball. And this is going to help it so we can divide it evenly. We'll also need some sort of towel to put it over because we're going to make whole lot segments. This is going to take a lot of time, so we don't want the individual pieces to dry out. So we're going to take our knife and we're going to cut it top to bottom. Don't worry, this does not hurt the dough at all. It'll be fine. Kind of cool. You can see all the gluten strands inside here. So after we do that, we have two halves. We're going to twist those around, and we're going to cut those halves into fourths. You can be more equal with a scaler, but I just like to do this by hand. It's a lot easier, it's a lot faster. And who cares if it's not really that equal? Sometimes the bigger ones are better. Now we're going to shake these into balls. And then we're going to cut them again. Now we have 8, then we're going to cut these one more time. This one's a little bit smaller, so I'm going to take a little bit from this dough, break off a piece, add it to this one. If I even want to, I can add one more. Just make it even. Now that we have all 16 of our little munchkins out, we're going to set these aside. Now this is a good time to get help if you need it because this part is going to take a little bit longer. So we're going to knead and do our twirling technique with each dough piece. Now, you already put so much time into these, so you want to make sure that you spend a little bit more care on these. So a little knead. Fold. You want to kind of do this for like 2 minutes each for each one. This is going to help with the gluten, and when it starts to proof, it's going to be way easier. It's going to proof better, it's going to taste better. Then we also have a parchment-lined sheet or pan. And what we're going to do is we're just going to pop them on here. There's one done. Now you can stop halfway through this and take a break because this is tiring for the wrists. Just don't take too long a break. Another one done. 10 more to go. Now that we've completed all our kneading, we have all our dinner rolls all perfectly made up. But before we do anything more with them, we're going to let these proof for about 30 minutes. Now this proofing is like rising. You're just going to let it go for a little bit, let it do its thing. It will rise up a little bit more and it'll expand. And we're back. So the buns just got finished proofing, or our rolls. So I'm gonna reveal them. Look at that! They doubled in size. Isn't that awesome? Oh wow, they're so soft. Alright, so what we're gonna do next is that I have our second egg and I beat it up, and this is what is gonna be our egg wash that we're gonna put on top. It's gonna give it a nice finishing, and it's gonna make it super brown. And it's gonna give it that signature look. So I have a paintbrush that has not been used. It's for baking. You're gonna take it and you're gonna get egg wash on it. Then we're gonna lightly go over it. You don't want to poke it with the hairbrush bristles. Not the hairbrush. The paintbrush bristles, because it might damage the buns. So just go really slow. And there we go. So you can put these in plain as simple, but a lot of people like a little bit of garnish. So I got flaky sea salt, or just normal sea salt. I like this kind because it just tastes better and it's overall healthier amount of salt. So I get this brand and this kind. So we're going to take about a pinch and go a little bit above. You just want to sprinkle it on. And there we go. Now all they need to do is bake. So they're going to go into the oven at 375. I already preheated my oven earlier. And these are going to go in for 30 minutes. And you got to wait until they're golden brown, or the top is golden brown, and it's a nice finish. And then you'll pop them out and you'll let them cool. Here we go. This is the finished project. They went into the oven for 30 minutes and they came out looking beautiful.